Okay, that was wonderful. I absolutely love Off Court Pod. Love Eitan and Abdul. Very happy that they could both join us today. It's weird seeing myself in triplicate there. So we're coming to the end of my block here. Let's just take a look at what is next. I'm supposed to know this. I believe coming up in just one moment, we've got my very good friend, Hilary Agro, joining the stream. Well, okay, Hilary, why don't you join? I do have to kind of go in a couple minutes because my partner has to go to the doctor's office. But Hilary, why don't you join now and we'll do a 5-minute handover. Because otherwise, when I try to talk, I'm going to have my son coming here and climbing all over me, which is not, I know some people enjoy that, but, you know, not really super productive in terms of like having political conversations. Just remind everyone one more time before I sign off. Harbinger Media, 100% listener supported. No dark funding, no corporate backing for Harbinger Media. 100% listener supported. If you can, please donate. You can do so by using the exclamation point donate command, which I'm trying to copy and paste. I'm trying to copy and paste my exclamation point, which is should be something easy to do. You hit exclamation point donate in order to, here we go. I almost have this now. I've almost got it. That's the donate command. Please, if you can, donate to the network. It's very, very helpful. Every little bit helps. That's how you do it. Eventually, we will figure out how to get these donations on the screen. We're doing some live troubleshooting. Hilary, how's it going?
Hey,
welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. What's up?
How's it going? It's been a while since we did a little thing.
Well, if you remember when I was really trying to get involved in this streaming space, you were very generously trying to help me out. We tried to do these calls previously and failed miserably. So you can see now I've upgraded this whole setup. I've got my professional streaming setup here. It's actually working. Yeah, absolutely.
Very pro.
Yeah, definitely. What do you have planned today?
Well, the toddler and the baby are both sleeping right now. So this is me donating the only time all day that I get to myself.
Yes.
To the wonderful Harbinger Media Network, because it's worth supporting. So
yeah, absolutely. Do you have any guests coming on?
No, there was a miscommunication, and I didn't realize that I was responsible for booking guests. I thought I was the guest and somebody else was going to be here.
Oh wow! Oh my goodness!
So we'll see. I think Nora's actually gonna join in a minute. See, this is why it's so nice to have a network of other socialists supporting each other, because all I do is shoot a message to the DM and be like, "Hey guys,
someone help me out here." Yeah,
come and chat with me, and Nora's gonna hop on. So
great.
I think Andre will be on in a little bit too.
Oh, good. Well, you can fill up the 2 hours, no problem. It's gonna be great.
Yeah. I mean, I can just talk the entire time. And
and so Chad, this is where it's up to you. Chad, it's up to you now. You are the content now. You've got to carry us through this next segment. Very important.
If in doubt, I'll just start awkwardly dancing because
also enjoyable for everybody. Well, I'm going to sign off for now. Like I said, my partner has to go to the doctor's office, so I got to get going. Thank you everyone for watching the beginning of the telethon. It was a great, solid first couple of hours here. We'll try and fix the donate thing on the screen so we can have these donations pop up as they happen. To everyone that's made a generous donation so far, we appreciate it so much. It's very, very helpful. Once again, if you want to donate, use the exclamation point donate command in the chat. Every little bit helps. There's been a number of really nice, generous donations. Even if you have $1 or $2 to donate, it's very, very helpful. We appreciate it a lot. Thanks for supporting the stream. Thanks for supporting independent media in Canada. And Hilary, I'll pass it on over to you. I hope everything goes well. I'll be watching. And if I can later, I'll try to put in maybe another appearance later. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, yeah. Hello, everybody. Thanks, Rob.
Okay. Bye-bye, everyone. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. Hi, folks. So for those who don't know me, my name is Hilary Agro. I'm, a noted loudmouth on leftist Twitter. I'm also an anthropologist, and I study drugs and why they're so great and why everybody loves drugs and loves to do them and why they should be legal. That's, in a nutshell. That's the less academic version of what I do. I wouldn't say that to my committee, but that's basically what I do. So, yeah, I've been, you know, not paying as much attention to this election as in past ones, but oh yeah, the best Hillary. Why, thank you, Pudrino. Yeah, I spell my name correctly, and I don't run a global pedophile ring. So I've got those two things going for me over the other Hillary that most people know. And yeah, so the current election is it's happening. So that's great. We're all really fucking stoked about this election that's happening. Yeah. Yeah, see, you're drinking, that's a lot of caffeine, Mondo Michelle. That is a significant amount of caffeine. It's funny because I'm actually going through some like transitions in my ADHD meds right now. It turns out my baby, I just had a baby this year, she's allergic to dairy and soy, and there's fucking dairy inside my ADHD medication that I just found out. And so I've been trying to figure out an alternative, and somebody was like, well, what about just caffeine? I was like, no, caffeine is too strong of a drug. Like, I don't mess with caffeine. It's actually very strong. I all respect to Rob with his energy drinks, but I was the instructor for a course this year, the anthropology of drugs. And one of the assignments that we gave to our undergraduate students, one of the options was that they could stop drinking caffeine for 3 days and then write about the experience. And universally, everybody that did it was like, it was horrible. I had huge headaches. Like, I felt like shit. I was nauseous. And, the whole point was kind of getting them to realize, like, oh yeah, if you drink caffeine every day, you're a drug user, and your body is very likely quite dependent on it. So yeah, maybe let's stop looking down on people who use other drugs. Oh, caffeine doesn't help ADHD. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like some people self-medicate with caffeine and ADHD, but I don't know. It doesn't really work for me. No, I wasn't on Vyvanse. I'm on Dexedrine. I've been on Dexedrine for a decade, and it works really well. I've been on Vyvanse before, but it was giving me heart stuff. So, anyways, yeah. So, does anybody have any questions about drugs or politics, or usually, so I have my own stream that I am kind of taking a break from right now that I'm on maternity leave, but usually on my stream we talk about drugs and drug policy and also politics. We get a lot of trolls who come in and try to argue that capitalism is good, and then we put them in their place. But here I just feel like we should take a more democratic approach. What do you folks want to talk about before Nora gets here? Because Nora has graciously agreed to come and help me out on the stream. Funny story from a streamer that you'd appreciate. Oh, so thought he was feeling like shit, and he didn't know why. He thought it might be alcohol withdrawal, but his wife was accidentally buying decaf. Yeah, man, caffeine is a hell of a drug. Like, it'll get you. Does doing drugs make you cool politically? Obviously, drugs are the coolest thing. You shouldn't do them. I don't support, or I'm not for or against the idea or concept of people doing drugs, but I feel like coolness is on the side of drugs. That's just pretty obvious. And cops are the ones who don't like drugs, and cops suck. So that's pretty cut and dry there. Will O'Toole legalize poppers? God, wouldn't that be amazing? Wouldn't that be the only good thing to come out of a conservative minority or majority? Nora is a national treasure. She gets a lot of shit, and she's very spicy on Twitter, but she doesn't deserve the shit that she gets. Yeah, you should say no to drugs unless you want to be cool and have everybody like you. This is accurate. By the way, my computer is slow. I just want to make sure that I'm not, it's not choppy for anybody. Am I coming through fine? Thank you, Andre. Okay, Nora's going to do her laundry and then come join it. With psychedelics trending, do you think we'll see legalization soon? You know, I do actually think that they have been decriminalized in Vancouver. The city of Toronto is actually working on a decriminalization campaign right now. The city of Toronto Public Health has applied for an exemption from the criminal code for to decriminalize all drugs, which is really good. I do think that unfortunately, you know, a lot of people who have the same sort of people who had the money and the social capital to try to get cannabis legalized are also wanting psychedelics to be legalized. Now, that's good because we don't want psychedelics to be illegal, but it's also really shitty because the ones that we really need to legalize immediately are opioids and stimulant drugs because, and well, I mean, those are already legal in some cases, but we need to give everybody access to that safe supply because, you know, odds aren't very high that if you get a bag of mushrooms, that you're going to die from taking those mushrooms. But the, you know, powdered drug supply is really toxic and contaminated right now. So that's why we need legalization for those drugs. But I do think that, you know, for the people who are pushing legalization, not for like sort of safety and reasons of freedom and morality, but for reasons of benefits, which was a big part of the push for cannabis legalization was like, oh, cannabis is fine. It's, you know, it's a medicine. We are seeing that same push for psychedelics as well. And that sort of like medicalization of it. Helping with Encampment Support Network. I support the Encampment Support Network in spirit. I retweet them a lot. I am planning on joining them when my mat leave is over, but I haven't been able to attend any events myself. I was this close to going to the Trinity Bellwoods when the cops were doing their big stormtrooper thing where there was hundreds of cops taking apart the encampments. I was this close to going. Like I literally like was getting ready to go, and then I started seeing reports that there were tear gas, and I had to tell myself, no, I have a baby. I need to keep the baby safe. So I can't go to any, you know, demonstrations until my mat leave is over, which has been really difficult. But yeah, I do live in Toronto now. I was in Vancouver previously, so strong support for them. Psychedelics' prescription will need to happen before recreational legalization. I hope not. Yeah, you shouldn't need a prescription to drop acid. Like that's just medical gatekeeping. We want people to be able to be educated, and it would be nice if they could buy it in stores where it could come with like an information package, and the people selling it can give you knowledge and information so that you can use safely. But I mean, a prescription doesn't even really do that. Pharmacists are good for answering questions, but they can just kind of give you your drugs and you can walk away. I don't think that, yeah, medical gatekeeping is what we need more of. But it would still be better than putting people in prison for it. Right. Am I a mushroom respecter? Oh, yes. How can you not respect mushrooms? I obviously have my favorite particular kinds of mushrooms, but yeah, Lana's great. I love that Lana has gotten...
This is some guy, Rob Rousseau, some leftist based in Canada. I was turned on to this sick individual, and I found this.
Time outside, so I love that she's doing that and encouraging people to do that too. Oh, you were doing legal support in Trinity Bellwoods. Yeah, good for you. I'm glad that you were doing that. Yeah, it looked awful. That it should go that way, or it will be necessary to actually get it done. I don't know. I think we actually might see. It's really hard to say. I don't think that we need to do anything in a certain, you know, in a certain. Oh, cool, Raiders. I'm seeing Lennon. That's good. Yeah, I don't think that. You know, I hesitate to kind of get too strategic with it. I had so I'll tell you a story from this weekend. This past weekend, I saw some of my friends for the first time in a long time, and I was telling a friend of mine who is a communist now, who was very recently a dyed-in-the-wool capital L liberal. And I was talking to him and I was telling him about the Drug User Liberation Front, which is a direct action group in Vancouver that once a month is handing out pure heroin and pure cocaine on the downtown east side as a sort of, civil disobedience, breaking the law because the law is immoral project. And it's really cool. They're giving out these things to keep people safe and give people a safe supply, because we've been demanding a safe supply of drugs for years now and it's not happening. So they're like, fuck it, we're going to do it ourselves. So I was telling my friend, the liberal turned communist, about this. And I was saying, you know what, this would be really great to get something like this going in Toronto. And my friend said, yeah, but I don't know, like if the people there are ready for that and blah, 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 like how are we need to do it strategically, blah, blah. And I was like, buddy, you're doing liberal brain right now. We don't need to think about, we shouldn't be more concerned about what's strategic and what's going to play well in the fucking suburbs. We need to do it because it's the right thing to do. And we will teach people that it's the right thing to do while we do it. And he was like, oh yeah, sorry, I still have liberal brain. So, I try not to think too much about strategically what's the best way to go about this. We just need to do it, and politicians and people in the suburbs can catch up or get the fuck out of our way. That's my opinion. Yeah, optics. Yeah. So I'm not getting any complaints about the actual quality of the stream. So I'm assuming it's working all right. And yeah, so just a reminder, as the little night bot has been adding, this is a fundraiser, in case you're just joining us. It's very like, it's the modern day like NPR fundraiser, telethon, we're looking for donations to back Harbinger Media. And those who know me know that I'm not on the more cynical end of leftists, for sure, but I'm skeptical of organizations, and this is why I have been told that I'm an anarchist without even realizing it. I don't think I have the self-awareness, but generally I feel like hierarchy in organizations are yeah. Anyways, that being said, I really do believe in Harbinger. Andre does an amazing job getting everybody together, and this whole network has been really cool to see come together, because yeah, we have a whole bunch of sort of different leftist podcasts that, we're trying to do our thing. We're trying to educate people and provide a sense of community and access to information outside of the, corporate mainstream media that's in the pocket of capital. But it's hard. We're all kind of doing this on our own. Like it's my Saturday, my kids are sleeping in the next room. I'm like trying to figure out how to record my podcast when I'm on mat leave and affording childcare and all that kind of thing. So if you can spare a few bucks to donate to Harbinger so that we can get more stuff like this going and make sure that everybody who's producing, I do everything I do for free, but we need to pay producers fairly and all that kind of thing. It's really appreciated, because the more that this stuff gets momentum, the more cool stuff we can do in the future. And yeah. So I'm catching up on the chat here. Read Lenin. Yeah, everybody should read Lenin. I've definitely read all of Lenin. That's a thing that I have done. Having politics based on principles, wild. Can't find a name I like. I mean, I think we've just been kind of chatting about drug policy, and because that's my deal. But yeah, London, Ontario. Oh yeah, I lived in London for a couple of years. I mean, I think we've just been kind of chatting about, but I do have to say that London very recently had just a couple of days ago, like hundreds and hundreds of students at the University of Western Ontario organized very quickly a pretty big rally against the sexual violence that was happening on campus this week. So I think there's potential. I think anywhere has potential. And I think, yeah, white people in the suburbs do hold us back for sure. But it's yeah, we can't wait for them to get on board. We have to just push them on board. Just push them. Good histories of drug prohibition laws. I know all the histories of drug prohibition laws. That's an excellent question. I recently wrote my comprehensive exams for my PhD about that. Quick, in a nutshell, drug prohibition in Canada and the US. Most people know that drug prohibition in the US, the Nixon started the war on drugs, and it was basically done to give them an excuse to arrest anti-war leftists and disrupt Black activists. But here as well, our first drug laws were, our very first drug laws in Canada were alcohol laws for Indigenous people. So alcohol was legal for whites, but illegal for Indigenous people. And they did that so that it would give people an excuse to basically like hunt down Indigenous people, throw them in jail, make them pay fines, and then everybody would get a kickback for those fines. And then our second drug laws were because, and this is really interesting, and this is why, leftists should know more about the history of drug policy and how this stuff relates to leftist politics. The first drug laws that applied ostensibly to everybody were the Opium Laws that were in 1908, because the Canadian National Railway was built. They brought in a whole bunch of Chinese laborers to build the Canadian National Railway. And then when it was completed, they had all of these laborers around. There was an economic slump. Whites started blaming Chinese people for, taking all the jobs, as the white working class is wont to do, with heavy encouragement from capital, of course. And so there was a race riot in Vancouver, and they needed a reason to crack down on the Chinese laborers, fine them, deport them. And so they made opium illegal, because at that time, opium was primarily used by Chinese Canadians in Vancouver. And so by making that illegal, it gave the cops an excuse to crack down on these Chinese Canadian laborers. And of course, they left laudanum and the things that white women were using. They left those things, they let those things be legal, but opium was illegal. And so basically all of our drug laws started and continued to be based on racism. So that's the little nugget for the day. Hi, Nora.
Hi. And wasn't Emily Murphy involved in those first laws?
Oh yes, yeah.
Recording in progress.
Yes, yeah. I don't know much about her. What can you tell us about her? All I know is that she wrote like an insane book that was like, yeah, super racist and yeah.
Yeah, I think so she was an author of the Johnny Canuck series, but she was also very, very involved in those early opium laws. There's a really wonderful feature, I think, in The Walrus from a couple of years ago that goes through her whole history involved with this. But why I find this interesting, I find it interesting because it's like objectively interesting, but having just written a book about feminism in Canada, Emily Murphy is like such a giant feminist figure in this country. And so not only do you have her being connected to other suffragists at the time who were eugenicists, and I forget how much into eugenics she was. I mean, there was a level of everybody was, but then there were like activists versus just like who supported those ideas. But she was also very connected to the Orange Order, and her family were like elected as MPs, and she had an uncle who was a Supreme Court justice. And so this is like one of the women who we say like one for like Canadian women to have the right to vote, right? And it's like, not exactly. Anyway, that's like the only thing I know that really ties into like our common kind of research interests.
Yeah, well, it is interesting because it's, white feminism since the dawn of white feminism has been used, to prop up class interests and, as a cudgel against people of color. And it's very counterproductive.
Totally.
Girl bossing since 1908.
yeah, and before, yeah. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. It's good. Doing this kind of stuff is good because I spend most of my days, knee deep in poopy diapers, and it's nice to be like, oh yeah, like I am at some point. I'm gonna finish my PhD, and I know stuff about things, but I spend most of my time these days researching like toddler emotional regulation.
Yep.
So that's fun because as a researcher, surely if I just read enough about it, all of the problems could be solved and I could prevent my toddler from having meltdowns. That's, really
possible. They'll melt down no matter what you do. That's the benefit of having twins, is you can see how like you're doing the exact same thing and the reactions are completely different.
Well, that's so interesting.
Yeah. I realized I was like, I had really bad jaw pain, and then my dentist was like, oh my God, you need a bite plate. And it took a couple of years for me to realize that was all connected to changing diapers. That the second I was no longer changing diapers, I was like no longer clenching my jaw. I was like totally relaxed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
The diapers are actually my, I don't even mind that part. I think that it just kind of going through the motions, anything that I can do that's like there's a beginning and an end. It's like, okay, this is nice. I know where this starts and ends, but like if there's a gradient of I could be doing this better, like I could be, putting in a certain amount of effort and it would prevent meltdowns, then I'm just like, oh God. Right. But this is also, this is something I would talk about on my own stream, was getting into how that stuff is also related to adult emotional regulation and trauma, and the fact that like if somebody's upset around me, I'm like, oh no, I need to fix it. It's my responsibility to fix everybody else's emotions.
Totally.
Little person has a fucking lot of emotions.
Yeah. I mean, I found out the hard way that one of my kids' meltdowns was actually related to some sort of pain. And so I started to just give him Tylenol, and it was like actually really did the trick. Wow. And then the other kid wanted Tylenol, so then I had to make fake Tylenol, which was, food coloring and water. And so I'd be like giving Tylenol to one kid and fake Tylenol to the other kid, and I'd have a control group right away to see like, how they reacted to stuff. And so my sister-in-law was always like, oh yeah, my kid was just out of control at the age, like very, very young, right? So like not out of control, but just always freaking out. I was like, did you ever give him Tylenol or give her Tylenol? No, why? I'm like, I don't know, calms my kid down. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I never thought too hard about any of that stuff because I was just kind of like, I get stressed out by very different stuff. So for me, it's just like, whatever. I mean, they're like in the next room right now, and I think that they're fine, and they have a friend over. I'm like, guys, I'm doing a thing. Okay, just like leave me alone. Yeah. You get out of it.
I think that just like being trapped here during the pandemic, and it's like, usually my brain like latches onto things that I can like research and do and be proactive about, my work, but I don't have any work right now. So I'm just like, oh, maybe I'll just somehow become the perfect parent via research and obsession. But yeah, I think I just need to get outside more, maybe.
Yeah, we'll be doing that probably the second I log out of here. How are you feeling about the election?
Oh yeah, is that happening?
Only for 2 more days. Almost done.
Can you imagine having elections as long as the US? Like, I gotta say, like, we're all annoyed that Trudeau called the election and like fuck that and everything, but at least it's short, relatively speaking.
Yeah, no, it's totally true. So I have the decision in front of me is kind of fun because I have a candidate who's like a cop, which is like no, but he's also spent time in jail for drug trafficking. So I was like, maybe.
Got out of jail and decided to become one of the people who put him in jail.
Pretty weird, eh? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I have some questions for that person.
Yeah.
How does he reconcile that? What's his what party is he running for?
He's running for the Bloc, and he's running. His daughter she was a bit high profile because she was 29 and died from cancer and became a patient advocate in the final stages of her cancer. Oh, wow. And so she got national or Quebec national profile, and then her dad's like, yeah, I'm gonna run for the Bloc. Also, I was a cop, and also I did 2 years in jail for drug trafficking.
But see, that's Oh yeah, Trudeau asked a candidate to quit today.
Yeah. Kevin Wong from Trinity Fort or Spadina Fort York, which is right downtown Toronto.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that, but
so this is a guy whose resume like makes it look like he's trying to be the prime minister, like just does everything kind of correctly, and was like a top 30 under 30 named by NATO of all things, and is a naval reservist, and made a company to make masks and then sold like tons and tons of masks to like universities and stuff. So the first scandal was that his business partner, she was like, he owes me $17 million or $7 million or something. He's like, I do not. And so she's suing him. So he's in litigation. And then 2 days ago, it comes out that, also he was charged with sexual assault, and the charges were dropped. So it's like not too clear what was going on. And so the Liberals were like, we will find out more and make a decision about this candidate. And then this morning they're like, he's out.
They found out more.
I
mean, it's really interesting to me how often this kind of stuff happens, considering like all of the vetting that supposedly happens with candidates, and these people still fall through the cracks. Like, I don't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as they say, like on paper, he's the exact person you would expect the Liberal Party would be tripping over themselves to run. And I think that the vetting's probably somewhat uneven, right? So it's like if it's probably like if you have a complete no one, they're really vetted because you're literally an unknown commodity. And then if they're a bit of a personality, they're probably vetted in a different way because like they can probably get away with saying things that are more controversial or whatever. Mm-hmm. But it does look like the election where vetting was a bit of a problem because of course the NDP lost 2 people as well over comments, though not over sexual assault.
Yeah, I guess if you're well connected enough, they don't do much vetting, but yeah, we'll see. I need to find out what the vetting process is for the Communist Party of Canada so that I can convince them to let me run next time.
It depends where you are because communists are highly concentrated, so you'll find actually
nobody running in my riding. So it's
really? Okay. Oh yeah, totally, for sure.
Yeah, but I do want to address something that was happening in the chat. This is completely just more related to what we were talking about before, but they did do a study and they found that yes, Tylenol can be effective for like emotional pain, and it's because your like physical and emotional pain are so connected in the body that if you can dull the symptoms of like, if somebody has anxiety and it's manifest in their as like pain in your stomach or in your back, if you lessen that, then it can actually affect your anxiety. So that's pretty cool.
Oh, nice.
But who's running in your riding?
So we have no communists either, or CPCML or anyone really to the left, like, which is a bit weird because Quebec has quite a strong tradition of an activist, like far left, right? Mm-hmm. But so it's a pretty narrow group of people. I think it's the 5 parties, 6 if you include the PPP party, and then an independent, a person who I have no idea who they are. And so what's interesting about my riding is that it's usually like for a long time, this is the riding that's like a Parti Québécois stronghold, like 30-year stronghold, and is a sovereigntist bastion, because in Quebec City, the whole region of Quebec City voted against an independent Quebec, which is kind of a funny thing. It's the capital city that didn't want to be. But my riding is where the sovereigntist support was really concentrated because I'm right downtown. And so in the Orange Wave, the NDP one, Annie Papillon won the seat here. She was wiped out pretty quickly and easily by the Liberals, which is a surprise. So this has been a Liberal riding since 2015, and it really doesn't make a ton of sense if you actually come here because of how many like not Federalists there are. But the guy who holds the seat, Jean-Yves Duclos, is a nice guy. He's super present. He's the only candidate I've even seen being out and about in the last 4 weeks. And like, for example, I was walking around the block recently, and there's a travel agency not far from me, which of course is like the worst business to be in right now. And so they managed to convince like a film crew to film something. So they were filming something at this travel agency for some show or whatever. And Duclos runs by on a jog and like stops immediately and starts taking pictures, being like, "Mister, like, you're my riding, and there's like commercial stuff happening, and this is so fun." So he's that kind of guy, but he's a liberal, and so like, I mean, personally, he can fuck himself, but he is a nice guy. He also just had a pulmonary embolism, which is kind of like scary, and is coming back right after that. Like only maybe 2 months ago he had this. So, but anyway, but it's a super tight race because he only won by 345 votes in the last election. And so it'll be a race between him and between the bloc. The Conservatives are completely not at all in it. The NDP are not at all in it either. They haven't really had a campaign here though. So, I mean, it's not too surprising. And then the Greens is like a random Anglophone that I had met like when I first moved here and haven't seen anything of this guy since. So I'm guessing he did not vote for Dimitri Lascaris because we hosted an event with Dimitri here when he was running for the head of the Green Party.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is up with the Greens right now, actually? I don't understand. I feel like the last thing I saw Paul say was that she was like, vote for the Liberals. Like,
yeah.
What the fuck is going on?
So, so something that I found out about Annemie Paul was that, so she was actually active in the Liberal Party for a while. And I did not know this until like that whole Liberal thing happened. She was apparently the co-chair of Gerard Kennedy's leadership race. And if people don't know who Gerard Kennedy is, he was like a left-wing liberal kind of renegade guy. He was, I knew him a little bit because he actually got a professor position at University X when I was there. But he was kind of this like, we can make a progressive liberal party, vote for me, and then he lost. And so she was chair of this like in 2006 or something. And so, you know, now she's a Green Party president. She won on the last ballot. I think they went to 8 rounds of balloting. So it was a very close decision. She was the establishment pick, and then the establishment very quickly fucked her and turned on her once she was in there. So they propped her up to defeat Lascaris because he was representing like a really big break from the, a big break. I mean, he had a solid third of the party behind him. So it's like, you know, it's an interesting kind of internal fight. But she won on that last ballot. And then, you know, everything from the internal stories that we're hearing about how she's not being allowed to do what she wants, like to actually run the party the way that she wants, to like May not giving up her seat for her. I don't know if that was like Paul saying, no, I really want to run in Toronto, or May being like, you absolutely can't have my seat. But that all seems very fucking weird because it's like, Annemie Paul cannot win in Toronto. Like, it's just not possible to go from 0 to winning in Toronto. You'd have to organize for years to make that happen. And so it just seems like, I don't know what's going to be left of the Green Party after this election, but she's been doing very, very well in like the televised debates, other than things like vote for the Liberal Party by accident.
I also just don't like this, just the idea that, you know, a candidate can just go to some other random riding just because they sort of have national name recognition and run there. Jagmeet Singh, like, you should be voting for people who are from your area. Like, I don't like this sort of like parachuting into, but in any case, I remembered one story that I wanted to tell about the candidates in my riding. Which I think the NDP candidate, Paul Taylor, is actually going to beat Arif Farani, which is kind of cool because Paul Taylor has done some poverty advocacy work and does pretty good work. So that's nice. Although the NDP guy who knocked on my door last week had no idea about his opinions about drug policy, which was my only question. So it was like, I don't know, just maybe the platform. And I was like, okay, well, we'll see. I'm sort of in talks with Matthew Green to like try to like push some stuff into the NDP, but I'm tired. I don't want to do this shit on my maternity leave.
No, totally.
Anyways, I do want to share that a conservative politician finally did something for me, because no conservative politician has ever done anything good to impact my life. But so I was walking to the subway station, and there was a guy like flipping a sign like it was for like a pizza place, and I was like, what is this? And it turns out that it was the conservative candidate. He had like an assistant who was like sign spinning on the road, and then the candidate himself was in front of the subway like trying to shake hands and stuff. And I was like, well, number one, if you want to meet people in this neighborhood who are going to vote for you, like don't do it in front of the subway, because like these are just like working class people going to work, like but cool. And so he was like, hey, like I'm the conservative candidate, and I was like, hey, what's up? And I realized I had forgotten my bus pass, so I was like frantically looking. I had my toddler and the baby in the stroller, and I'm like looking, and I'm late for childcare. And he was like, and I was like, do you have any bus fare? And I was like, do you have subway fare? Because I don't have my bus pass. And he was like, well, I found a token on the ground. I can go get that for you. And I was like, yes, please do that. And so went and picked up a token from the ground and gave it to me. And he was like, I hope I can count on your vote now. And I was like, no, but thanks. Thanks for the subway fare.
That's really nice. That's great.
Yeah. And I was like, no, man, like, thanks. This is nice of you, but capitalism is destroying the planet. And he was like, well, you know, capitalism has lifted more people out of poverty than any other system. And I was like, sure, bud. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we can have a conversation about whether or not the Chinese system is capitalism. That's the only way you can have that conversation.
Yeah. Which there are arguments to be made there, but I don't think it was
not in the way that he's talking about it.
Yeah. So, but at least, you know, I got subway fare out of it. So
that's awesome. That's really great.
Only thing they've ever done for any working class person in Canada.
So what do you think, do you have predictions, or do you don't feel like you don't have a strong enough kind of take either way to have a prediction yet?
Predictions, I don't know. I don't know. I don't really know what's going to happen, honestly. I hope the Conservatives don't win. I'm not an accelerationist. I don't believe that it's good when the Conservatives are in power. And I actually would like to explain this for a second, because I know that there's a lot of leftists who are just like, they're all the same and, you know, whatever. But if you are actually doing like organizing work, you want the people in power to, like, they're your enemy no matter what. So it's easier to have people in power who are like slightly less antagonistic to your goals than, you know, people who are more antagonistic to your goals. So I'm a drug policy activist. And just to answer the question that somebody asked in here, yes, I'm for the legalization and regulation of all drugs. We can't stop people from using drugs, but we can provide them with a safe supply so that they don't overdose from fentanyl being cut into their drugs. There's no reason to keep drugs illegal. It doesn't stop anybody from using drugs. It just makes drug use unsafe, and we shouldn't be telling other people what to do with their bodies. So yes. And so that's my sort of wheelhouse. And you know what? Under Harper, it was extremely difficult to get any sort of safe injection sites set up. It was just fights on all ends. And as soon as the Liberals came into power, you know, obviously they're terrible for many, many reasons. And foreign policy wise, they're pretty much identical to the Conservatives. But there are certain ways in which they are slightly better than Conservatives, including actually not only allowing safe injection sites to open, but giving funding for those sites. And that keeps people alive. So it's easy to say at a distance, you know, they're all the same and whatever. But if you have friends and family and people that you love who are at risk from the drug poisoning crisis, then it's better to have Liberals in power, because it's a slightly easier fight to get these things in. But I don't actually know what's going to happen, because I haven't been paying close enough attention to have predictions, and you know.
Yeah, see, I have a bit of a different take on that, to be honest, because I would agree.
I'm open to hearing other takes, because you know, I'm flexible, and I feel like I see a lot of, you know, I agree with a lot of arguments that I see from these different ends, but from my specific perspective of drug policy, I don't want Conservatives to be in charge. But yes.
Yeah, no, I think that the way that you started this, talking about the accelerationist kind of perspective of conservative governments, is super important, because I do think that that's a trap, that like, we just need things to get really bad and that would be the revolution, right? And it's like, does not work like that. That things will literally just get worse and worse and worse and then worse. But I feel like I've really hardened in my position that they are the exact same, like the Liberals and Conservatives, during this pandemic. because it's like, it has been a condensed period of like, of something that we might usually watch unfold over 20 years, right? A slow march to death based on, I mean, the drug crisis is a really good example of that. But this was like condensed in 18 months. And, you know, there was no major debates between the parties and how to manage it. Capitalism was like protected at all costs. And the result was like just incredible death. And I just feel like, I don't know, like the pandemic has really turned me into being like, whoever the fuck is in power has nothing to, it's not my business. Like we will have to fight. We will have to create the, whatever our communities, our local protection systems ourselves. And all that changes with whoever's in power is how we fight. And then the strategies that we take, like, do we shut down highways or do we fucking put on a tie and meet with these people? But I mean, it also comes out of years of like activism, like in the student movement, where you can see that like every year the conservatives are in power, they make things obviously worse. But then the fucking liberals like create programs to keep things at the level of being obviously worse. So it's just like, oh my God, like everything goes back to the Christian American budget in 1995. Everything on Ontario tuition fees goes back to like 2005 with the fucking liberals. You know, there's such snakes that it's like, I'd like to see Trudeau punished for calling this election. Yeah. But I do think that like when articulating this, it isn't about that making things worse, because like the conservatives will make things absolutely worse. But like, let's not kid ourselves. John Horgan did not fucking win the pandemic management award because he's NDP. And Stephen McNeil and whoever the fuck the guy is who replaced him are not winning the pandemic management awards because they were liberals and then conservatives. It's just like, there's other circumstances at play that help to make things better or worse.
Yeah, I certainly don't. Yeah, I certainly don't want if the liberals win for that to be seen as, you know, like validation of their regime, because
yeah,
God. But yeah, I don't know. I do think that regardless of what happens, I'm really interested in seeing is what happens with the People's Party of Canada.
Right.
Because yeah, I my take on this, which you know infinitely more about Canadian politics than I do, but it kind of feels like if the Conservatives don't win, it's not, you know, because the Liberals, people like the Liberals, it's because their vote was eaten away by the PPC. But it remains to be seen how much that might happen. I have no idea in terms of like if their popular support is going to, you know, materialize into actual candidates winning. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, the word today in the Quebec press, because the Quebec press is the really only one that can get a read on this, because none of the PPC candidates have any hope in hell other than Maxime Bernier. And like, we should keep in mind that it was actually fucking surprising he did not win in 2019, because that guy had been elected 4 times before as the MP for the Beauce for his riding, and was given his riding by his father, who had been in power for fucking 2 decades as well. So like, they're a real dynasty family. And the fact that him switching, like when he founded the new party, he had 49% of the fucking conservative vote. So it wasn't like he was fringe. But the Beauce and the right, like the area that goes up to Lévis and then up to where I am, they were all 100% against Bernier. And it was all because of his position on milk. Right? It was all because of supply management. And so when Bernier founded his new party, which was a month after the election or whatever, maybe a bit longer, he founded it in 2018. So a couple of years after the election, the entire Conservative Riding Association quit. They're like, fuck this guy. Like, he doesn't represent us. So it's so interesting. Now he's riding higher in the polls, and the region of the Beauce has been really hammered by the pandemic. My friend who's a dentist always says that the worst teeth that she sees, because she works in public clinics, the worst teeth she sees are people from that region, and they're really bad by a lot, like really horrifying teeth conditions for people that are really, really young. It's a region that's full of meat slaughterhouses, full of poverty, full of farming and massive farming, like, capitalist farming infrastructure. And so it's not too surprising that of all the places that the PPC's leader would be from, it would be from there. They're also, of course, the place where there's this great story where when Bernier was in government, when the Conservatives were in government with Stephen Harper, I don't remember how this all went down, but he was tasked with bringing the troops in Afghanistan like a fancy meal because he was visiting, and the tradition was like probably a roast beef dinner or maybe turkey or something like this. And Bernier gets there and he's so excited to show them what he brought, and he brings up this box of Joe Louis, and he's like, "I brought you guys Joe Louis." The soldiers were like, "What the fuck is that?" What? We didn't fucking want that. It's because Joe Louis is from the Joe Louis factory is in his riding, right?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
But the PPC, what was really shocking and what a lot of national media are missing is the PPC is not stealing votes from the Conservatives.
Okay.
They're taking votes. They're taking anti-establishment votes away
They're doing what the NDP should be doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
They're radicalizing apolitical, or like, the term apolitical isn't great, but previously disengaged.
Totally.
People.
Yeah, and so, but with the role that they do play, which is critical, is I don't think that we would see this red Toryism coming from O'Toole if the PPC didn't exist. I think that we would see like Erin O'Toole went down to Roxham Road in Quebec and did a French presentation in Quebec saying we will stop illegal immigration, all this kind of racist shit that did not come out in English. And I think that it didn't come out in English because he's got to look a lot more moderate, because the fringe has already found itself a home in the PPC.
Mm. Oh, and yeah, to clarify, she's talking about Bernier, Maxime Bernier, not Bernie. Somebody in the chat.
Bernie Sanders is a fascist, and fuck that guy. No, Maxime Bernier.
Tastes getting real spicy in here today.
That's right. He's the left. Bernie Sanders is the absolute right, and we can only go further left from there.
So I know that we talk about this a lot, but surprise appearance for my husband in the back. Who is shirtless because he just got a big tattoo on his chest recently. And he's letting it air out. So people ask this question a lot, and I have sort of vague ideas because of being friends with you and other people who are privy to the horrifying, like, just disgusting inner workings of the NDP. But why is it so difficult to drag them left?
Yes, I think like on a practical level, it's because
this is some guy Rob Rousseau, some leftist based in Canada. I was like, turned on to this sick individual, and I found this.
I would probably say are much closer to being red Tories. Like they don't want to see people die on the streets. They don't want to see people like be denied healthcare. They want to see everybody have access to schools. But it doesn't go deeper than that. And there's no actual like understanding of how like Canada has been built to operate in this colonial resource extractive way. And they see any of that as being a threat. I mean,
it's a lack of understanding, or like, because there's clearly people in the party who, have an awareness of that thing.
I don't think it's a lack of understanding. I think that they're actually implicated in it, right? Because like, if you look at the person that's directing the campaign, like she was in cabinet in Manitoba, like, and she was part of a crew of people in Manitoba that basically like, oversaw massive, the number of child seizures kind of like explode in the province among Indigenous communities, right? And then there's a whole bunch of other things that we can criticize the Manitoba NDP for. But it's just that they're all part, that they're not outside the system, right? And I think that that's the mistake that we make, is we think that the NDP is outside of a system. Just because the NDP is not the Liberals or the Conservatives doesn't mean that they're actually outside of that system. They may have been outside of that system when they're the CCF. They may have been outside of it in 1960. But now the way that the NDP understands itself is it's like the only way that they're going to get elected is by hiding under coats and pretending to be liberal light, right? And it's really tough, because it means that
they think that that's the only way they're going to be elected, but is it? Like, it feels like this,
Yeah, no, this is where it's enraging, right? Because it's like you have the power of labor behind you. You technically, like, I mean, quote unquote, you do. I mean, you're not necessarily organizing those unions, and labor often swings its support behind liberals, which is a whole other problem. But no, it's a complete miscalculation. And the problem, of course, is that then you get a government that comes in like Daryl Dexter. He's actually, Dexter was the last NDP guy. Oh my God, I'm so glad I don't remember this. Nova Scotia and then Oregon and then the NDP years. And it's just like, what exactly did the NDP give the province to be able to say this is why you should have an NDP government, rather than, oh no, we're just going to manage everything. We're just going to manage things. And, you know, it's a cop out. Every time I hear someone say like, well, it's just so easy to destroy things rather than rebuild it. It's like, we are in a 40-year neoliberal project. And unless you get elected, like promising to literally undo some of what is being done in this 40-year project, you're just going to be assumed by the machine. And that's just what keeps happening. And you know, and then the party brass learned all of the wrong lessons from Jack Layton. Like every one of the wrong lessons they could have learned from Jack Layton, they learn them, and they're always trying to reinvent those lessons in how they're doing their campaign right
now. Yeah. Well, thank you for that.
I mean, it's just really brutal. Like, so here's a really concrete example. So, you know, theoretically, you should be able to go to the NDP convention. You have a suite of policy demands, and the policy demands are like left wing, and the party will be adopting them, and then those will appear in the platform, right? One, there's actually no connection between what's in the platform and what's in the party policy. The insiders decide this is going to be what's like successful through polling or whatever, rather than there actually being a grassroots structure of coming. Like in Quebec Solidaire, we have to go through fucking 3 different general assemblies in every single riding with our policy and then the platform. And then we come up with a local platform, a regional platform, and a provincial platform that then the party can, you know, adopts or whatever. So that's a huge break in it. And then number 2, they make it very, very difficult. So activists fight for months to get riding associations to sign on to stuff. The Congress is flooded by delegates who actually have no connection to ridings, because if you wanted to go, but all your riding seats are taken, then the party says, okay, then you're going to be from this fucking random riding. We have no members. So you have all these people that aren't actually representing ridings being there because they're members of the NDP, they want to be present. So it's like, okay, that's weird. And then you're actually then harassed, like incredibly harassed the entire time you're in these spaces. You're yelled at by older members or people with power, people from labor. You're treated really poorly. It's just like, what the fuck is this? Like, this isn't cool. This isn't left wing. So it's just like, I do not. I think the only thing that will change the NDP is a legitimate threat from the outside of the NDP, and I don't know exactly how we build that threat.
Yeah. Well, that's a question for next time. I guess I think we've run out of time. I'm so grateful that you joined me here.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, I'm so glad it worked out, because it's like now I just have to take a shower and bring a bunch of kids to the park.
Yeah. Yeah, this is great. I think Andre, are you around? Are you listening? I'm not sure how to do the transfer to who's next. I'm going to check the list once my computer lets me. Oh, Forgotten Corner and Progress Report is up next. So we've got Jeremy Apple and Scott Schmidt and Roberta Lexier, and Duncan Kinney is
very nice. Great lineup.
Exciting. But yeah, I guess I'll stick around until that happens. What can you say about the root causes as well as possible solutions for the US opioid crisis? Yes. A lot to say about that topic. I'm going to try to say it in 1 minute. So root causes are really, really complex. It's a labor issue. Okay, yeah, this will be the last question, then we're going to transition out. So it's a labor issue because people, workers are literally worked to death or worked into pain. People get chronic pain, and through just injuries. A lot of it is work related, or just stress related, or just injuries. Injuries happen, and but we have no social safety net because we live in a capitalist society, and so people have to mask their pain instead of having time off to recover. Having access to physical therapy and other non-medicated forms of helping to relieve pain. Like me myself, I gave birth and have had an extraordinary amount of postpartum pain, which most women do. But I don't. But I have access to physiotherapy through my partner's benefits, and so I can avoid going on painkillers. If you have to go back to work and you don't have access to any of those things, like you're going to go on painkillers. And then there was a whole bunch of really complex reasons why opioids in particular started exploding. Some sort of like fraudulent for-profit people latching onto this one tiny study that wasn't even a study, saying that opioids aren't addictive, and then doctors started making money off of them. In these like super alienated and broken towns in the US, a whole bunch of people got physically dependent on opioids. And then now that it's been cracked down on, you're right, patients can't get access to the medications that they need because doctors are so afraid to prescribe, because now we're, going after doctors when we should be giving alternative pain medications, alternative pain management options. We should be letting people